Welcome back, Wolfpack. Verlis here, and this is How to Use Pyukumuku. Guys, I am in love right now. This little guy is so filthy that I can only appreciate it with everything I've got. So let's go and check out this pure water typing. Already excellent. Defensive typing right there. We have two weaknesses, grass and electric. That's all we have to worry about, not the most common things. And then we also get double the resistances. Steel, fire, water, and ice. I mean, ice, you keep your dragons safe. Steel, you keep your fairies safe. Fire, there's a lot of fire hate out there because Pokemon like Kartana, Pokemon like Celesteela, you know, they start eating those hits, and you just have the water. So you resist a lot of really good things in the meta. Electric is getting a little more common, but I mean, you can still deal with electric really easily because that's a ground type Pokemon. And then grass, not too many super powerful grass type Pokemon that actually threaten you. And then we look at the stats of Pyukumuku. It's like, you know what? As much as I'd like to see maybe a little more hit points, this is just fine. This is tankier than a Rotom form. This is actually really close to the Toxapex, and it just kind of adds up right there. That Toxapex, slightly less on the hit points, much more on defenses, and it does have the regenerator ability, so it gets more effective tankiness. But Pyukumuku, for this little ball of a Pokemon, is deceptively tanky, and it can tank up those hits super well. And then we just go to Cerebi, and we see all of our dreams come true, and like, the greatest thing ever, Pyukumuku doesn't have any direct damaging moves, and it's absolutely glorious that it builds into whatever you want as like the ultimate status, just shenanigan, tricky little Pokemon. And it's every option, almost every option works. We have the double team that could be evasion as we're going for all the shenanigans. We have this right here. This is your core. Recover, Soak, and Toxic, and you learn it right after each other. So, you know, you get a high level Pyukumuku right there, and boom, you have everything. That's all you need. And then you run whatever else you want, and we're going to talk about those options. But it's so cool to see that. And then we are absolute taunt bait, but here's the thing. Your opponent taunts, you switch. Or you predict the taunt, and then you switch into a sweeper, and it doesn't matter anymore. So taunt doesn't really matter. There's other Pokemon in the game. There's a team of 3 or 6 more Pokemon, depending on what format. So Pyukumuku just comes in at the advantageous time, and then it just goes and murders everything. Also, it's got competitive use for Harden. Like, that's pretty cool. Bide can do damage. Counter could work out really well. So, yeah, I'm going to just kind of go into Pokemon Showdown and really talk about all these options right here. So we have Soak, we have Toxic, and then we also have the Recover. And after that, you can do anything you want. Whatever you want Pyukumuku to be is what it's going to become. You want to have a full special defense tank, go for it. You want to have like a mixed tank. That's kind of what I was showing right here. If you want to go full defensive investment with a special nature, you can do that. This is going to be balanced. And for the most part, you're going to be seeing really strong physical hits. Depending on where the meta goes. If there's more special in the meta, you can flip this around. That's when you just go max out on the special offense, and then you go hard into defense. And the cool thing about Pyukumuku, no damaging moves, so you could go bold or you could go impish. Whatever ability you get a hold of, you can go and use it. The speed is so low. If I really wanted to, I believe the relaxed nature, that's good. You don't even have to worry about resetting for the Pyukumuku forever. If you have just a box of synchronized Pokemon, go grab one, get the right stats, and it's going to be super easy to get a competitive Pyukumuku. And there we go. And then we have Recover, Soak, Toxic. And then this is your free space. This is where you win Pokemon Bingo right here. You throw in whatever, and then you're good to go. And also it gets the Unaware ability. So no matter what your opponent does for setup and stuff, you can just kind of come in and be like, nope, I'm going to Soak you. I'm going to Toxic you. Because normally Toxic doesn't work against like Poison and Steel type Pokemon. Well, if you Soak them, and then you land the Toxic, now they're poisoned. Like, if a Toxapex gets poisoned, that's like the worst thing. That's its midlife crisis, and its life only gets worse from there. Like, that's the last thing any tanky Pokemon, especially like a tanky Steel type or a tanky Poison type Pokemon, they're not built to handle that Toxic, and then it just gets really bad. So that's an option right there, and I do strongly recommend Stealth Rocks. I strongly recommend some kind of entry hazards, because they're going to be wanting to switch out a lot against Pyukumuku, so we'll take some mind games. You know, you Soak them, and then on their switch turn, you could go for Recover, you could go for another Soak, you just throw out the Toxic, and then they have to eat a Toxic. One of the worst things for Pyukumuku, besides like taunt, is just the opponent having 2 Steel type Pokemon or 2 Poison type Pokemon, or one of each or whatever, because then you just get an infinite Soak switch, which is why if you have the Stealth Rocks up, well then they're actually at a disadvantage from all that, and you're so tanky that you can eventually squeeze in a Recover. You might be able to get them on a Soak Toxic. So Pyukumuku is going to come out of a lot of situations on top, and I mean, here you go. Choose what you want. Do you want the Protect? That's going to make the Toxic stall even more filthy because you're gaining a little bit on leftovers. Like, the leftovers power should not be understated, that this will allow you to survive extra things. This will allow you to be tankier, and if you have the protect, that means you're getting an eighth of your health on top of the half of your health, and then if they're not doing any of that damage, well, you win. Pyukumuku throws the thumbs up, because apparently it can go and do that. Like, it threw out a peace sign in the anime, that's pretty cool. Baton Pass. Make Pyukumuku a part of a Baton Pass chain. I don't know, Extreme Evo Boost, Calm Mind, Iron Defense, Amnesia, Curse, whatever you can Baton Pass into it, do that, because it only needs these 3 moves. The other move is just fun, it's tech, it's whatever you want it to be. So if it's a Baton Pass, well yeah, now you're even tankier, now you're unkillable even by electric and grass type attacks, and then your opponent's really gonna have a hard time dealing with you, and then you just Baton Pass. So, oh no, Pyukumuku's in a bad situation, well, those stats don't go to waste. So a Baton Pass chain is well invested into the Pyukumuku. Gastro Acid. A couple things that give us problem. Mold Breaker, well, we get rid of the Mold Breaker, now we still have our Unaware. So, boom, we win against that right there. Oh, just all kinds of things Gastro Acid's good for. Sheer Force, anything that's boosting damage on the ability is going to get nullified, and then you can just go and cheese them out even more with that. That works out really well. There was another one, the Immunity. Immunity, like, since you can soak and kind of get rid of anything, Immunity is really the only thing that stops our main form of damage. Pretty rare, don't see it too often, but the Gastro Acid is there. And then Double Team or Swagger or whatever, because yeah, you can run Swagger if you want, because Swagger, it doesn't matter. You don't care. You have Unaware. So you Swagger them, now they're just confused for free, and they're dealing more damage to themselves because you just boosted their attack, but you don't care about that. So now they actually hurt themselves. And even then, like, there's a realistic possibility you could get rid of the Toxic and then change your only damage option for that Swagger, and that could be absolutely hilarious. Like, they hit themselves in confusion. If you're on a lethal turn, well, now you recover, and then you just kind of wait it out, and now your opponent has a really bad time. You can Swagger with other things, like the Attract Swagger, Double Team Swagger. You just make it to where now Pyukumuku's an unkillable, frustrating force, that it's a 3-hit KO in so many scenarios on the Pyukumuku that, you know, the opponent's not gonna be able to 2-hit KO you. You have infinite sustain on the recover and leftovers. Well, not infinite, until your PP runs out. But after that, you know, Swagger, Double Team, if they're missing moves and they're hitting themselves, and then it's just adding up right there, that gets pretty good as well on the Pyukumuku. Other things, yeah, just kind of adds up. So Entry Hazard's going to be pretty big, and also do be aware that if you're running like the Swagger, you are going to be going last in turn, so pretty much they can just switch out and then burn through all of your Swagger if they want to play like that, unless you have Stealth Rocks up. That's why Toxic works, at least they're still going to take Toxic damage through all that. So it's a lot of damage over time. Well, I mean, it's all status. So Pyukumuku is like the most beautiful thing to me, because we had that Fan Fridays a while ago where it was like an all status team, an all status sweep. Well, Pyukumuku is actually the embodiment of that. It's a Pokemon that lives to be an all status sweeper, and I play those games. I play, you know, crazy gambles, crazy setup, and Pyukumuku becomes all of that. So yeah, we have the Swagger, we have Venom Drench, so we have Harden, we have Curse, we can do whatever. So Venom Drench, you Toxic them, you Venom Drench, and then you heal up, and then, yeah, now they're weakened. And if they switch out, then you get another Toxic, you can do whatever. Rest Sleep Talk, you can totally do that. So pretty much you'd get rid of Recover, you get rid of the other one, and then you'd have Rest Sleep Talk, Soak Toxic. There's so many different ways you can play the Pyukumuku, it's just ridiculous. In doubles, we have maybe one of the coolest moves I've ever heard, and that's the Purify. So when we go up and see the Purify, user heals target status condition. If move succeeds, it also restores the user's own hit points. It's only 25%, so it's not like a massive heal off of that, but still, you remove a status, so you can remove burn, sleep, paralysis, and then you heal. So it kind of makes that turn not even matter. Like, okay, I took damage, but now I'm actually getting a free aromatherapy-ish, and then I also don't care because it feels like that turn never happened because I ended up healing out of it. So there's so many cool things you can do. That's where the safeguard comes into play. You can also run the counter, because if you're a 3-hit KO Pokemon, yeah, counter is going to work out really well in this set. Like physical hit, counter them, do a lot of damage, and then that's when you can go and heal up. And yeah, counter and Swagger could work as a damage replacement for Toxic. All kinds of fun stuff right there. And then the Harden. So really, I feel that the only time you change around EVs is if you're running like Harden or something like that. You max out hit points, high special defense investment, but I found that this is like the magic number. You put this much defensive investment, you're still being super tanky special defensively, and then you can survive on the Harden. Problem is, it depends on the meta. There's a lot of special attackers right now, so if you set up the Harden and then you get forced out because the opponent's like switching around their Steel type and Poison type Pokemon, like, you know, if they're playing around the Pyukumuku, the Harden doesn't feel as satisfying, then you switch out, then you lose the turn for Harden, and then you might be at health disadvantage. But if your opponent has high physical, yeah, then they just never get around you because the Harden is just that good. So now it's time for some damage calculations, really try to bring this all together for the Pyukumuku. So we have Life Orb Garchomp against a Careful Nature on that high defense, 12% chance to KO after Leftovers Recovery. So you can actually outpace these Garchomps. Now after a while, you'll lose like slight bits of health and then maybe like go into KO ranges and stuff. But really all you need is set up Toxic, recover, set up Toxic, recover, and then switch out. And then boom, Garchomp's poisoned, already low. And it's Life Orb, so he's taking the Life Orb burn. If it depends on the other move you're running. If you're running the Protect, that adds to Stall, then the Leftovers. So yeah, if you're protecting against this Garchomp set, then it doesn't have anything on you because you're leftovering any of this chance for the KO afterwards, and that's taking poison, it's taking Life Orb. So this is about as like ferocious as it gets. We have single battle Garchomp throwing out the Stab Earthquake under a Life Orb, 130 attack. So anything weaker than that, you actually survive. That shows the shenanigans, and then limits. I mean, Tapu Lele is pretty ridiculous, so we have, like, the extra damage coming off of a Psychic Terrain. So Choice Specs, Choice Band, that kind of tips the damage over. But, I mean, we're still only taking 60-ish something percent. So Pyukumuku still has a chance to come back later. So you can Toxic, then maybe you can even Protect, add on to that Toxic, switch out, do whatever. Tapu Lele is very predictable. You bring a Dark-type Pokemon. So there's ways of dealing with the Pokemon. You build around the Pyukumuku. You build around what's threatening your team. You lose a couple battles, you switch around your team, and then you're good to go. I also want to do some like damage comparisons and stuff. So the Shuckle, I mean, Shuckle still hardly stands a chance against the Tapu Lele. That it is still good amounts of damage. So it's going to be taking a lot more on the Pyukumuku, and then I also wanted to go and bring out the Toxapex. Mostly like a similar set in a way, that we're just going to be going max defensive investment, but we're also going to be throwing down the special defensive nature. And if we remove, I just remove poison, that way it looks like a neutral hit. So yeah, 55 to 65% compared to the 58 to 69. So I mean, what's that? How is that, like 8% more damage? You know, Pyukumuku is like 7-8% less tanky. Don't quote my math. I'm doing this on the fly right now. Then a Toxapex, we're still tanky. We're still a threat. And then I don't really know what else to say. Like, we take other comparable Pokemon. Anything less than that Garchomp is just going to be doing almost no damage to us, and shows all those other options that we could have with these other movesets and all the fun about it. So there is a little bit of right moveset at the right time. There's also just a lot of things that don't stop us unless it's super effective, and then we play around that. Or if it's just already like a super dominating meta Pokemon. So yeah, just keep it safe, and then it sits in there. And I will say, I think Pyukumuku works a lot better in 3v3s, because your opponent has less options. That if they're switching through with 3v3s, well, that means the total percentage of the team's health that's being lost Stealth Rocks is higher. The amount of Steel-type and Poison-type Pokemon the opponent's going to bring. Like, if the opponent has 2 Poison or Steel-type Pokemon, well, the odds of them bringing both of them are going to be very low in a 3v3 format, unless, like, they're that paranoid of the Pyukumuku. But anyway, something's getting poisoned, and then you also have, like, a lot of other support on your team, just through other tanky Pokemon. I would recommend the Regenerator. Like, you bring in Toxapex, Pyukumuku, and a Ground-type Pokemon. And then you win. You know, you just have that sustain, you have that longevity there, and then 3v3 singles is pretty free right there. So I think that's it on the Pyukumuku. It's such an awesome Pokemon, and I think that's really all I have to say. Like, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching. What an awesome little Pokemon.